Tēnā koutou katoa, and welcome to today's webinar where I'm speaking with Paul Brislen and Clare Dobson from the TCF about the shutdown of the 3G networks that are occurring at the end of this year and into the first part of next year. We're going to cover off some of the information you need to know, but also information that you can share with others in your family and your community. And we ask some of the tough questions. I hope you enjoy this webinar and that you find it useful. Feel free to share it as widely as you like because this is important to everyone. Ka kite. So today we're hosting a session to help share the news around what's coming up as we say goodbye to 3G. And obviously for us, you know, the communities we work in, the fact we're supporting users, this might have a big impact or it might not. I don't know how many of you remember working on Y2K. I sure did. I wasn't allowed to drink on New Year's Eve and had to be awake at midnight, and then nothing happened. So it's a bit boring. But 3G is coming in. The shutdown is nationwide. And the other thing that Paul will need to share with us is there is a couple of different dates that the networks are working to as well. So today we're going to hear from him and Clare from TCF, who is on our screen as name not available. So that's all right, Clare. Thanks. Hopefully some clear non-technical assistance that you can utilize with your communities or people you deal with, how to look after it yourself, and what's happening over the next couple of months. So I'm going to hand over directly to Paul to start the conversation off. Can you introduce yourself and then start with, like, at the top, what's happening, when, and what does it mean for everyday users?
Awesome. Absolutely, I can. Thank you, Craig. Kia ora, everyone. Welcome along. Great to see so many people here. And thank you all for taking the time out to come and have a chat about 3G. So if I start with what 3G is to begin with, it's the third generation of cell phone technology that was introduced way back in 2011 when the iPhone first launched. So the first generation were the analog phones, the crusty old phones that only allowed you to do voice calls. We phased those out ages and ages ago. The second generation were the 2G phones that allowed you to do voice, and then this exciting new thing of text messaging. 3G allowed you to also do a little bit of data on the side. And all around the world, it has reached the end of its shelf life. It is no longer the fastest and greatest. We can make much better use of the radio spectrum for 4G, the fourth generation, and in some cases 5G. So that's what the network operators all around the world are doing. They're switching off the 3G networks, refarming the spectrum to provide better service and better speeds and feeds and things for consumers. Now, what that means for everybody in New Zealand is by the end of this year, 2 Degrees and One New Zealand, formerly Vodafone New Zealand, will have switched off their networks. And in the first quarter of next year, Spark will join them. And that means if your phone is reliant on 3G for anything, in particular voice, that will no longer work once the network's no longer there. So whether you're making a 3G voice call for to a landline, to another mobile, to emergency services, doesn't matter. It won't go through. There is no connection for you to connect to. So that's the kind of the lay of the land. By early next year, all the 3G networks will be off in New Zealand and most other countries around the world. Australia did it last year, Vietnam earlier last year. Practically everybody switched them off by now.
Just a quick question for you, Paul, then. Why the different dates between the three networks?
You'll be pleased to hear, Craig, that we've got a very competitive market of 3 entirely independent operators who fight tooth and nail to do the things their way. And try as I might to get them all to work together, that's like herding cats. So, we have different dates for different companies, and I suspect that's probably a good thing, right?
Yeah. Hey, I know it's you're talking about 3G, but one of the things I picked up this morning when something came out was around 1NZ's 2G network, which we really haven't talked about, but maybe you can mention that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So One New Zealand is the only company left with a 2G cell phone network. Spark famously did away with it many years ago. You remember the switch off of the 025 network? That was the end of that for Spark. Back then it was called Telecom. They introduced a whole new technology and just skipped the second generation entirely. 2 Degrees turned off its 2G network, gosh, about a decade ago. I helped them out with that. I was doing some work for them at the time, and that was a big project. Similar kind of concerns that we hear today around what will happen to the network coverage, what will happen to all those people with devices, how do we know whether we'll be affected or not? You know, this sort of thing does happen on a fairly regular basis. I'm quite hopeful this will be the end of the mobile switch off for a number of technical reasons that I can get into for you. But of course, customers do need to be aware on the old copper landlines. Those two are being phased out. So by the end of the decade, by 2030 at the latest, the last of the copper lines will be discontinued, and everybody will have to find an alternative network technology for those home phones as well.
That's a pretty important thing to note, that they're two different things, because I do know in talking to some people that they're getting them conflated and getting a bit worried that, you know, not only is their cell phone going to disappear, but their copper line is going to be, but that is going to take time, the PSTN and the copper line, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, the copper line is a longer program of work. It's being done in conjunction with the Commerce Commission. So Chorus will identify an area where uptake of fiber optic cable and other alternate networks is so great that they can say, great, you've passed a certain threshold, Chorus, you can start sending out the letters saying, we'd like to switch off the copper lines in your area. So if you haven't got one of those letters, you're not in any risk at the moment of having it gone, but you will get one eventually, sometime between now and the end of 2029.
And let's hope there's more providers in the market than that gentleman that lives in the United States of America with his satellite service. But that's a whole different
conversation. Right. That's a whole other. We'll need a glass of wine if we're going to talk about that, Craig.
Yeah. Let's move on. I mean, we've all got devices. So let's start with phones. What do we do, and how do we help people understand, what's going to happen to their phones?
Yeah. Absolutely. So that is the key point is you need to make an informed decision. So the first thing you need to do is gather some data about whether your phone will be affected or not. I'd encourage everybody on the call to pick up their phones right now and join with me. If you text 3G to 550, just as it says on the screen there, this is part of our ad campaign you might have seen. So just text 3G to 550, you'll get a little report back on your phone. And it'll say, congratulations, you don't need to do anything, you're fine. Or it'll say, whoa, that's an old phone, you need to trade that in. But more likely, it'll say, your phone can be upgraded with a change of a few settings. So that's our aim, is to make sure everybody knows what they can do, because not everybody will need a whole new phone. The ones in the middle there who have a device that needs to have some settings changed, you may need to go into a store to get some help with that, or get somebody who's a bit more techie than I am to help you out. But for the majority of people, it's simply a matter of changing the settings on your phone to pretend the 3G network's not there, and that will help make those calls connect over 4G, which is what you're after.
We've had a few things come in, we've talked to communities, etc., around some of the phones they've bought that might be bought in from overseas, or they might be buying from third parties. And we know that there are some phones that are being sold as 4G, but aren't necessarily completely 4G, the voice code. Can you just explain in layman's terms why that's the case?
Totally. So when 4G was first launched, 4G is a data-centric model. What 4G and 5G do is they send all of the traffic over the data side of the network. But when it first started, there were still a lot of devices out there that would use 3G just for the voice component. So what that means is you have to force your phone to swap over to using 4G rather than 3G for the voice piece. Unfortunately, it's got a terrible name, I'm afraid. It's called VoLTE, Voice over LTE technology, which is just ghastly.
Cool. And the other thing I was going to ask you, sorry, it's just slipped my mind.
And that's the key. Did I disappear there?
No, you're there.
No, everybody froze. It's just me. It's just my camera. So that's that's why sometimes you'll find phones say they've got a little 4G icon in the corner of the screen that says you're connected over 4G. However, you might get the message back saying your phone needs to be updated because of that, because it uses 3G for voice. And my concern is you may not use your phone for voice calling. You may use, WhatsApp or iMessage or one of these services to provide voice calling. But if you need to make an emergency call, your phone needs to be capable of connecting to a network. So it's really important that you take that into consideration.
And that's especially important for 111, right? And we'll come back
Absolutely.
to that a little bit later.
Yeah, there's quite a lot to talk about with 111, so we'll come back to that, Craig.
Yeah. So just if you get the message back, or let's say my mother, who's 85, gets a message back saying she needs a new phone.
Yeah.
What are her options, and how do we make sure she doesn't get oversold or told she needs the iPhone 17 Pro?
Yep, nobody needs that, right? So the good news is there are a range of devices from, I was in the supermarket yesterday and I had a quick look at the cabinet they've got. They have 4G and 5G phones from $80 all the way up to your top of the range, as you say, Craig, top of the range iPhone 17 Pro. What is that? It's more than my laptop, $2,500, $3,000. So there are a range of devices out there. You need to be willing to decide what it is you need to do with your phone. If you just make voice calls and send the odd message, you don't need a top of the range phone. If you prefer all the data and playing games on your phone, listening to music and reading books and all the rest, maybe you do, but that's an individual choice. So make sure you're not railroaded into anything. You don't need to have the top of the range device. Whichever one suits your needs is the key. But customers will need to do a bit of research as to figure out what that looks like.
And can we, a leading question, can we trust the people inside the stores to be able to help our perhaps non-completely digitally, technically savvy to make sure they get the right thing?
I think all of the three mobile operators have been very strident with their sales teams. Sales people generally try to upsell everybody on everything all the time. They've said this is not a selling opportunity, an upsell opportunity. We just want to move everybody across to the newer networks and make sure everybody's connected. After that, we'll try and upsell them on new things. And don't forget, these networks will switch off by the end of this year. In the meantime, we've got Christmas coming, and they do like to have a big sales opportunity at Christmas. And I think the telcos are more interested in making sure you don't try and jump ship to another network provider instead of trying to upsell you on a new device. So I'm hopeful, but I would love to hear if anybody does have problems on that front, because we'll take it back to them and say, what's going on? Find out what it is.
That's not a bad comment. I mean, I live in Red Beach, Silverdale Shopping Centre just over the road, and all three MNOs, mobile network operators, have stores inside the Silverdale Mall. It's a short walk between each one.
Yep.
There's a possibility. Wander around and see who wants to take your business and give you the best price phone.
And I encourage that, right? Yeah, every year, do it regularly. Go and say, okay, this is my device. This is what I do. Show me what you've got. And let's see what the other guys can do for me. And I would encourage all customers to do that on a regular basis.
And the other thing we need to make sure is those of us that are savvy anyway, that if we're traveling overseas, that our phone is capable as well. Make sure that it's not sticking back,
Totally. If you are an overseas traveler, then I'd suggest upgrading to a phone that does just do 4 and 5G, because it gets very complicated when you're roaming as well, trying to connect to a third-party network. That can cause all kinds of changes to your network settings. I'd err on the side of caution with that one.
Yeah, roaming costs are a whole other discussion as well. We've got things we want to talk about, Paul. So look, what about some simple fixes and common scenarios for people and businesses that are coming up?
Yeah. So the first thing you want to do is do an audit, a stock take of your devices. Most of them will be phones, of course, but there are other devices out there in this exciting new world of the Internet of Things that we've developed. Anything that might connect to the outside world might use a 3G chip. So it's important you find out what's going on. And the things we've come across so far include everything from web cameras to electric car charging stations. We've come across electric gate openers for those people with the fancy gates, right through to lifts, the emergency phone in lifts, and even some pacemakers, which talk to a little box by the side of your bed, and that box uses 3G to communicate back to the network. So all of those providers have long been notified that this kind of this change was coming. They will be working rapidly to get customers migrated over to newer technologies since long before we started with the public campaign. But there's always a chance for something to have slipped through. There we go. It could be just about anything, right? Just think, especially for business, if I've got a series of things that communicate with the outside world, how do they do it? Go out and find out, audit your suite of devices, your fleet, and then work out from there what you need to do.
I want to come back to handsets just for a moment because I really like the pictures we used on this slide.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Do you want to just, talk a little bit about the long tail that's sitting out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought naively perhaps that almost everybody was on either an iPhone or a Samsung, or there might be a few sort of Oppos and Xiaomis out there. It turns out, back when I put this slide together, that there are thousands of different phone models in use on the networks today. We have a very transparently open retail market in New Zealand. We don't set limits on what people need to do when they're importing phones. We don't control the import of phones whatsoever. And there's nothing to stop anybody deciding, I really like this model that I've just come across in a far-flung corner of the world. I will import a container of them and sell them in New Zealand. Now, the problem with that is these phones aren't necessarily certified to work on the New Zealand networks. They may not work on the same frequency ranges. They may or may not have the right settings in the software to be able to switch them over to 4G only. And on top of all of that, you might find that the models vary depending on which market they're intended to work in. So it might be that you've got a Craig Young 1234 and it's set up for Indonesia or the UK. And when you bring it to New Zealand, you do, you Google online, have a little look and go, oh yeah, that phone's fine, that'll work here. And it may not because of the way it's configured for the overseas market. So the first thing we've got to get you to do is check to make sure your device is okay. And that's where the 550 checker comes in. And if you do get stuck, go on into one of the stores and have a chat with them and say, look, I'm not sure if this thing will work. Can you help me out? And they'll be happy to do so.
Okay. One of the things that I find when I'm moving around the country, because you know what the roll of two hands is like, you've done it before,
Yep.
and a bit of travel, and I'm still hitting black spots in certain places, etc. So can we just talk about coverage for a minute? And I've got a slide here, so I will put it up so you've got something to talk to, Paul.
Yep.
But where are we with coverage when it comes to 4 and 5G?
So I think there seems to be this assumption that we'll switch off the 3G network and then we might do something about increasing the coverage of 4G. And I can assure customers that's absolutely not the case. For the most of the last 2 years, all three of the network operators have been rolling out 4G equipment on all of the existing 3G towers. So if you see a tower anywhere around today, if you're like me and you keep an eye out for towers, shameful as that is, the one thing you'll notice is that they've been updating the equipment on these towers significantly over the last couple of years. There's been a major program of work and it involves leaving up some 3G antennas but replacing most of them with 4G, or in urban areas 5G as well. What will happen on top of all of that is because of the way 3G cell sites propagate, and forgive me for a moment, but we'll talk about the width of a cell phone tower coverage area. Think of it like a mushroom. The cap of the mushroom is how big the cell site is. 4G and 5G are much lower powered, and they cover a much smaller area. So in the meantime, on top of replacing the 3G equipment, they're also building new towers as fast as they can to fill in the gaps. So what you should find by switch off, which is why we're talking about the end of the year or early next year, what you should find is more 4G and 5G coverage than you have today. And the end result of that is you should have better coverage than you had under the old 3G network. Now, it will not be exactly the same. And I can say that hand on heart, because network topography is a dark art and I don't fully understand it. But you will not get exactly the same coverage. So you will find that at the end of the street, you used to have 3G coverage and now there's no 4G. Or you might find that you used to get no 3G coverage in the back of your house, but now you've got plenty of 4G. Those kind of individual cases will be evident all around the place, and the network operators will be working to fine tune their networks to minimize any downside from that. Because again, they are coin operated. If you're not connected, they're not making any money. So they want to make sure everybody's connections are there in as many places as they are today. They don't want to lose anybody off the network. If you're talking about expanding the network footprint, we've got 3 competitive operators running networks in the main centres and places where New Zealanders live, work and play. And we talk about 97 or 99% coverage of the population. That's not the geography. So that is not, New Zealand is largely empty. I'm sorry, it's wonderful, right? But there are huge tracts of the country where nobody lives or very few people live. And this project is not about expanding the footprint of the network. It's about replacing 3G with 4G.
Thanks, Paul. Just a reminder to everyone, if you've got questions and you want to chuck them in to the Q&A so we can see them, or in the chat, I don't mind, I can follow them there. We can answer them as well. And because we've got Paul and Clare here, if you've got any really difficult, tricky questions, I'd really like to have them to ask these two.
Yeah, Clare hasn't said anything yet, so make sure you get any tricky questions for Clare.
Yeah, not to go to her, but yep. So now I'm going to ask, I'm going to talk about Remobile, because a number of us, and me included, have a number of phones sitting in their drawer that don't have SIM cards in them or anything. So while Paul's the CEO, I'm going to ask Clare, who's the person that actually runs TCF, that makes things happen. And I always like to say that. So look, what can we do with our old phones? Recycling, get rid of this stuff out of the drawer that we don't need.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Hi, I'm Clare Dobson, not available. Sorry, just need to put my name out there. But hi, everyone. Yeah, it's really, it's an important question. And the TCF in 2014 established a product stewardship scheme for mobile devices and accessories in 2014. 2 Degrees, One New Zealand and Spark are all members of the scheme, as well as some key partners that we have in the e-waste sector. So why it's important is mobile phones, where our aim is to not dispose of mobile phones and leave them into the landfill. We're aiming to dispose of them responsibly. Mobile phones have hazardous materials, including batteries, that do need to be considered when they are being recycled or disposed. We really don't want you to put them in the rubbish bin. We want you to use our Remobile scheme and dispose of those devices responsibly. And it's not just recycling, but it's also reuse and refurbishment. So there's a number of great mobile phones that can stay within extended life cycle within the market. So we also do refurbished mobile phones, and make them available. But one of the key things is it's free. You can drop off your mobile device to a number of the 480 plus retail stores around the country. If you're not sure where they are, we have the remobile.org.nz website, which tells you all about how they are recycled and refurbished. And there's also a map there which you can pop your address in to find out where your local or your closest location is to recycle your device.
Claire, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What do we do, or can we put in like the old Nokia 3110s we might still have sitting around, or I think I've still got a Razor somewhere, which is just cluttering my drawer. Can I put that in there as well?
Yes, we'll take everything. So not just the devices, but we'll also take the phone accessories.
Like the charger.
So the cord, the power cords and headphones and things like that. So all of that can be recycled through the Remobile scheme.
So what do we need to do before we actually give those phones over?
So ideally, if you're able to, is to back up your data that you have on your phone, if that's a phone that you're still using. Remove your SIM card and the memory card and perform a factory reset. So that's to clear the data that's on your phone. It's important to note, though, that if that is not possible for whatever reason, because sometimes those phones are damaged, you can't, power them back up, the obligations on our partners that we deal with have to do that to international best practice standards. So they clear the data and make sure that that is all taken off the phone, take out the SIM card and do that as part of the process that they go through when they collect the phone. So that's also checked. So that's important to note, because I know some people do worry about the data that's on their phone, and sometimes that's a barrier to recycling those phones, but there are clear processes how to do it. There's a step-by-step thing on the Remobile website if you're unsure how to do that, but also just giving assurance that our partners do that also on their side.
That is a good point, because some of us will have phones that we can't find the charger for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, won't it? Yeah.
So some of them are, or they're just damaged. And the key thing is, we're really trying to avoid just chucking them into the rubbish bin, because that's also a fire hazard. You would have seen in the media, there's been quite a lot of media attention around rubbish trucks catching fire. I know that's not specifically related, but it's those batteries that are going into those rubbish trucks that have been collected that are causing that damage. So it's really important that we do take responsibility for those devices and do the right thing. I think I should also just note that we also partner with a charitable trust, charitable organisation, Sustainable Coastlines. So whilst the scheme is a non-for-profit scheme, for every mobile phone, our partners donate back to the scheme, and that gets passed through to Sustainable Coastlines. So you are also supporting the environment, but also supporting the community charity.
Glad you mentioned that, because I was just thinking, I was trying to remember who it was, because I knew there was a partner somewhere, a charitable partner. So thanks, Claire. Anything else you want to say about the Remobile or scheme?
No, I think it's just just clear out those drawers. Don't be afraid to do a bit of a clean out, a bit of housekeeping. There's no reason that we hang on to these devices. We do note that now there is really great programs for trade-ins. So if you want to upgrade, or you have to upgrade as part of that 3G shutdown, talk to your provider about the trade-in process. That's a really great way to also get money back on those devices that are still valuable, and then they get refurbished and then they go back into the marketplace. So it's that circular economy that we're trying to support here as well. Thanks
very much, Claire. Appreciate that. I think it's one of the lesser known best things that the industry actually does. So I'm not being mean to the industry, but I'm saying it's a great thing. Yeah. Okay. So we know what we're doing with our phones. So I want to come back to you, Paul, and just let you sort of go through the things, just remind people, what the TCF's been doing, what sort of things we need to be doing around helping people understand, and where we can go for extra help and support.
Yeah, absolutely. So our role in all of this as the Telco Forum has been to lead consumer awareness. And I'm pleased to say even the Commerce Commission thinks we're doing a pretty good job at it, which I'm quite pleased about. So there have been ad campaigns on social media, in newspapers, and on the radio. We've been engaging with a number of different community stakeholder groups, such as yourselves, Craig, DECA. We've done presentations. Gosh, I've lost count of the number of them, but we've been trying to get out to as many different groups as possible to help educate people and provide the resources so that they can in turn help people in the community. Just this morning, we've put out a new fact sheet. We've taken the 3G fact sheet and translated it into 10 different languages so that we can reach as many people as possible. The aim is really to make sure that everybody is informed and knows what they need to do. It's up to everybody individually to decide, you know, do I buy a new phone? Do I soldier on with this? Do I just give it all away and go back to sending letters using landlines? I mean, it's entirely in your hands, but I want to make sure that everybody's got the information they need in order to make an informed decision. So yeah, so that 3G checker tool, you just send 3G to 550 and you should get a report back. I saw somebody say it hadn't worked. If there are any problems, let us know, because we can chase up with the MNOs. And it should work whether you're a direct customer of them or whether you're on one of the virtual networks as well. You know, we've got a number of providers out there who don't have their own networks. They are also part of this scheme. They will also, if you're a member of, you know, Mercury Energy's mobile or whoever else is out there, that will should still get you get you a report on your device. So the only other thing really to think about is 111 calling, Craig, and how that's going to be affected. And it's a really important area, right? So 111 calls are handled completely differently to regular calls. If you dial 111 on your phone and your network isn't available, the phone is smart enough, it's baked into the technology that we use. Your phone is smart enough to try another network. So for example, if One New Zealand is your carrier and you can't connect for whatever reason, your phone will look for Spark and 2 Degrees. It will even look for Wi-Fi calling if you've got that turned on. So it will use a Wi-Fi network to connect back to the internet and connect your call that way. And that is really quite a powerful tool. Australia, you may have read in the news a little while ago that in Australia there was real trouble with Optus, with emergency calls not going through. And the technical teams are still trying to understand just what happened. But it would appear that what's happening over there is, as your call is being directed from Optus to another provider, there's a bit of a gap. There's a bit of a pause while the connection goes through. And that can take 30 or 40 seconds. So customers are panicking and saying, oh my God, my call isn't getting through to 000 over there. It's not working. And they hang up and they try again and it does the same thing. We haven't got any evidence of that happening here, but I would stress, if you are making an emergency call, your number's not available, it might take a few seconds to connect to another network. So just give it time to have a go at that. But the real issue is, will there be phones that can make voice calls on 3G? It appears to work okay, but when the 3G network's gone, it'll no longer make emergency calls. And the upshot is, yes, that's quite possible. There will be some phones that won't be able to make emergency calls. We're just working with the network operators at the moment to determine how big a problem that is, how many of them are out there, and what we do about it. The Australian model was quite a blunt instrument. They blocked them all from the network. So unless a phone had a certificate to say that it was guaranteed to work with 111 calling, or 000 over there, it was bricked, is what we call it. It just became a brick. They just blocked them off from the networks entirely. So we're just working with the telcos to see what that would look like here, how we would handle all of that. What I don't want is somebody with a phone that looks like it works fine but won't make emergency calls, because that's just untenable. We cannot allow that. Our priority is to make sure people can call for help when they need to.
Cool. Before we go to just open questions, I just want to cover off one last thing, which is around communities and people we deal with, and just cover off this idea of, you know, what information is available for us to share, and where can we find it, and how do we get it out to people, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got the 3G fact sheet. That's now available, as I say, in multiple languages, including New Zealand Sign Language. We have a fact sheet video. We also have a how to check your device guide for seniors, and there's a smaller version of it on the screen there on the presentation, because that can often be challenging. You know, it's easy enough to say just text 3G to 550, but what Age Concern told us is that that's often the wrong way round for a lot of consumers. They want to know who they dial and then what they send, not what you send when you dial this number. So we've put together this fact sheet for them in particular. And the next phase, really, the next issue is going to be around how do you explain to people the setting changes needed to do that, given that no two phones seem to have the same operating system. So we're working on that with Consumer New Zealand. They're going to put out a video to provide some support on that in the next coming weeks. But you had the website address just before, Craig. The 3G Shutdown site has a whole bunch of materials for anybody, especially if you're in a community group and you want to share with a broad base. That website has all the materials you need. And if you ever think, oh, we need something else, this isn't working, or you'd like us to come along and have a chat about it, you let us know directly, and we're more than happy to come and have a chat with whoever you want us to talk to.
Yeah, I think I'll just reiterate what Paul's message there. You know, if you've got an organisation or you've got a community group that really are struggling to understand what this means for them or would like some assistance, we are more than happy to come along and talk to the group or talk through what this means and make sure that they're all prepared.
And so how do they get hold of you, Claire or Paul?
Either through the website, there's a email address, or info@pcf.org.nz that comes through to us, so we can pick up that request, or any questions after this, I guess, if they've got follow-up questions.
Cool. All right. Thanks, team. That's my question. So we'll go to an open session. If anyone wants to ask an open question, I don't think there's anything in the Q&A because I opened it up and there isn't.
There's one at the end there from Wayne. It's
in the chat. Yeah,
in the chat.
I was going to hand that to you.
Well, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, let's have a chat about that while everybody thinks up some fiendish questions for Claire. Your coverage might be impacted after 3G is switched off. Your phone supports 4G calling, but not in all areas, particularly rural. So the reason for that, Wayne, is some phones don't operate on the 700 megahertz frequency. So imagine your cell phone is very much like your radio in the kitchen. It's got preset stations for different channels. Unfortunately, we're closing down national radio on one channel and moving it to a different frequency, and your radio doesn't support that frequency. So that's what's happening here. Your phone will work in most areas, but if you're in rural areas where there's a lot of 700 megahertz, it may not work. So that is worth having. It depends on how much you travel to rural areas, of course, but that is worth talking to your provider about.
It's an interesting one because I'm also, I mean, I can see that Wayne is on 2 degrees because it's at the bottom. It says, well, Wayne is not on 2 degrees. He's a Nova customer, but it says go to 2DM, which mine says as well. But mine says, my phone basically just says it supports 4G and you're all good to go. So Wayne does make this comment about the MVNOs, Paul.
Yes.
What do you want to say about that?
Well, if you're happy with the service from your MVNO, you should talk to them. A lot of them don't sell handsets. You know, they rely on you bringing a handset to them as a virtual provider. But if you're in the market, as I say, if you're in the market to review your entire package, then absolutely you should talk to everybody. It might be that you're in an area where another provider has increased coverage lately and you're unaware of it. So it's very much worth having a look at the Commerce Commission website for coverage information, having a chat to your neighbours about what networks they use, and then talking to the providers and seeing what they can do. Whether you're an MVNO or not, it's entirely in your hands.
I suppose that, there is a bit of we might make an assumption that people who switch to MVNOs are more tech savvy than standard, but that's probably not a great assumption to make. So
no,
Wayne does have a point there that the message you get back may drive you to an MNO, and they may encourage you to buy a new phone. So I suppose it's just something to be aware of.
Yeah, it really is. Not all, no two MVNOs are the same, right? Some do have handsets for sale. Some focus on a particular niche in the market. Others are more general. We're seeing a lot of electricity companies come over and try and bundle everything together. So they may well decide to make you a special offer to keep you on once the handover's taken place. So always talk to the provider and get them to do the legwork for you.
And of course, sorry, you
just note in there that so just looking at Nikki's comment as well, I think that Paul and I will take that back, because the MNO's responsibility to communicate the 3G shutdown program and what is happening on their networks to their MVNO partners is important, and so we will take that feedback back to the MNOs and make sure that they are aware. But please raise that directly, because that's their responsibility, is to communicate that well to their partners.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, there are different types of MVNOs as well. We know that you can have a deep MVNO or a light MVNO, depending on which
thick
part
and
of the
thin. Yes.
So that is up to the MVNO. I did want to pick up in Nikki comment as well around the actual dates, because you didn't say the dates, you just said in this period.
Yes,
but they are on the website, so you can say them, can't you?
No, I can't, but they can. So Spark has said in the first quarter of next year. The other two are saying by the end of this year. Now, what I can tell you is each Christmas, most of the technical teams go away on leave and they lock down the networks and make no changes. So I cannot believe that on December the 31st, somebody will be flipping the big switch to switch off 3G. That's just not going to happen. Not while everybody's at the beach. So I suspect it's a hard line in the sand in the media, but just between the 20 of us, I think we can probably safely say over the Christmas period, it'll probably still work until early next year. But it is entirely up to each MNO, and they're each adopting a slightly different approach. I don't know which is which, because I try not to pay too much attention to the individual differences. One of them is going to do a phased approach where they will do region by region. Another one is doing an approach where they've already put most of the equipment on the towers. For them, it's simply switching off the 3G network, holding their breath, seeing what happens, and if it's okay, then they'll leave it off. But yeah, each one has their own priority process and plan of attack. I don't know if you've heard any different, Craig or Claire, but yeah, that's
I'm looking at one of the providers, and it says starting to switch off our 3G network towards the end of 2025. So it doesn't actually give you a date, and I've gone right through their page. It took me a little bit to find the information as well. It wasn't on the front, the top of the page. So yeah.
I think it's interesting also to look at the Australian example. So some of them, as just what Paul explained, some of them did a phased approach and others did a hard shut off. So they'll be taking the approach that's best going to suit their network needs. I guess is the best way to do it.
Yep. All right. Anyone else got a question they want to stick their hand up and ask? I'll give you a few more seconds. I can see Alistair's face. He looks like he's trying to put your hand up.
Oh no, I'm just really grateful to get all the feedback and stuff. I suppose the only question I feel is people, the people probably who need the most help are not really aware that there's even a campaign on. And I think out here there's a lot of organisations that support one, such as Age Concern and maybe Grey Power, but or certainly in the libraries that need to reach out. And I was having a look over the 3G Shutdown website about the resources available. I think that's really commendable. And I think the messages, I mean, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here in regions, but it's whether we need to hook up with anything that you're doing in particular. I mean, so that we can coordinate it and make sure that clients and people can be aware, because I think people are just going to need to be reminded constantly, aren't they? And,
yeah.
So
but you're exactly right, Alistair. That's we did talk to Age Concern. They're the ones who helped us with the graphic for helping seniors. And I'm more than happy to come and talk to any community groups, because you're quite right. It's saying it repeatedly until the end of the year, until everybody's sick of the sound of my voice. That, I think, is the key metric for me. When I start to get journalists saying, no, we actually don't want to do another story on 3G, Paul, please calm down. I know I'll have done the work well. Because they're exactly the people who need the most support, and I really want to make sure they're not going to switch on their phone and find there's no network when they need it the most. So that's really important to me.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right. I don't think there are any other questions. I'm going to go back to this slide to finish off. So just to reiterate the message, check your mobile device. Most of us on the call have. Stay informed, go to the website, spread the word, download those resources. So those resources, sorry, Claire, just to check, they're on the 3G Shutdown site, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes.
Free to use.
Free to use. You can download them. Download them and share them out. Absolutely free to use. If there's anything in there that is you want to have a little bit more tweaked in terms of your own audience or your own community group, come back to us. We're happy to work with you on that. But they are available to use. Yeah.
And then when you've got time this weekend, wander over to one of those retail stores and get rid of all that junk that's in your top drawer.
Absolutely.
All right.
Clear out your drawers.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I won't tell you what my wife thinks about my cupboard. So, yeah. Look, Paul, I'll give you a last word. Is there anything else you want to say before we close up?
Look, we've done this a few times before. We switched off the AMPS network. We switched off the 025 network. I won't talk about XT network because that was highly entertaining. But we've turned off the 2G network on 2 degrees as well. People don't move until the very end, and a lot of people will wait until the network's gone and then say, "Oh well, now I have to do something about it." But it shouldn't be scary. I just want to make sure everybody has the information they need to do what they need to do and make that informed decision. That's really all we can hope for.